Hi lovelies, welcome back to our channel, and today I brought you a story that originates from the slopes of Mountain Elgon. The story is going to be known as the Drums of Namisindwa. It's about an ancient drum that had warnings, and the kids or the teenagers around the village did not abide by the warnings, and they rose or they went ahead and did what they were not supposed to do. What happened what happened to them after they did whatever they did? Please follow me. Let's dive into the story and you will learn more about it. On the far side of Namisindwa Hill, villagers speak in hoarse tones about an ancient drum. Hidden in a cave above the coffee traces, they say it once belonged to a clan of the spirit keepers who guarded the border between the living and the dead. When the last keeper died, the drum was buried with him, along with a sign or a warning. No hand of the living may strike it, or the hill will answer. But stories fade, and curiosity grows. One harvest season, three friends, Lutaya, Madhu, and Sarah, met around a fireplace. They were young, restless, and loved proving they feared nothing. Madhu said, "There is no ghost up there, only bats." Sarah laughed. Ha 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 ha. "Then let's see it tonight." They set off at dusk, carrying torches and a bottle of warrage. Their laughter echoing in the villa as they climbed. The cracks fell silent. The air seemed sharp with a metallic scent. At the cave's mouth, a faint glow pulsed from deep inside like moonlight caught in a heartbeat. The drum sat on a stone altar, carved from the dark board or the dark wood. Its skin stretched tight and sleek as it oiled by rain, strange, coiled along its rim. Sarah ran a finger all over the carvings. Old cow head, see? Nothing. Before Lutaya could stop her, Madhu lifted a stick and struck on the broom. The sound roared down the valley, heavy as thunder. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the second beat answered, not from the drum, but from deep within the hill. Boom, boom. The cave trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Something woke. They fled outside, but the hillside had changed. The forest below was gone, replaced by a mist-filled plain. From the fog came the soft rhythm of many feet moving in perfect step. Shapes merged, figures draped in burial clothes, faces hidden. Each carried a drum strapped across their chest, beating in unison, a heartbeat older than stone. The three friends stood frozen as the line of drummers circled around them, their eyes pale and whole, reflected on the torchlight. A voice rose from the mist. "Who walks the hill must join the march." Hands cold, damp, and impossibly strong, seized Madhu, pulling him into the circle. His scream was shadowed by the drums. Lutaya and Sarah tried to run, but the ground turned soft as ash. Drums pounded inside their skulls, matching their racing hearts. Sarah slipped. Hands caught her, wrapping her in clothes that smelled of earth and smoke. She disappeared into the procession. Lutaya was alone. He stumbled back towards the cave. The drum still sat on its altar. Vibrating as though alive, desperate, he struck it again, hoping to undo the curse. Instead, the cavern walls pulsed. A shadow separated from the stone, tall and gaunt, with ribs like tree roots. It leaned close, its breath cold enough to frost the hair. "You have played our song," it whispered. "Now keep the rhythm. Lutaya felt a strap slide across his chest. When he looked down, a drum was there, bound to him by ropes of smoke. His hands began to race beyond his control. Boom, boom, boom. At sunrise, farmers found only an empty cave and 3 faint tracks leading nowhere. From far away, across the morning breeze, they thought they heard drums fading into the clouds. To this day, elders warn, if you hear drumming from Namisindo at night, do not answer, do not climb. The hill is still marching. After the hill swallowed Lutaya, time blurred. He no longer felt soil beneath his feet, only a shifting mist that smelled of damp graves. The drummers ahead moved in the perfect rhythm, their burial clods swaying. Every step echoed like a heartbeat. He wanted to shout, to ask for Sarah, for Madu, but his mouth would not obey. The drum lashed to his chest, grew heavier. With each beat, as if drawing strength from his pulse. The fog parted, revealing a narrow track swirling downward. Strange carvings glowed faintly on the stone walls. Sparrows, eyes, hands reaching out. Each mark seemed to twitch as he passed. At the end of the path stood a carven vast as a cathedral. Roots hung like black ropes from the ceiling. In the center sat a throne carved of termite-eaten wood. Upon it scrolled a tall figure, crouched in the shadows, its face hidden behind a mask made of stretched back. Where its mouth should have been gaped a hole that pulsed with sound. When it spoke, the words weren't heard, so much as felt in the bones. The hill wakes because mortals beat the skin of silence. They rattle and slumber of the forgotten. It lifted a bony finger, and the drummers rose. Play for me, new one. Lutaya's hand trembling struck the drum, and the sound was not his. It was deeper, older, something crawling up from the rock itself. The throne shape swelled, pleased. A soft cry rose behind the drummers. Sarah staggered forward, burial clothes slipping from her shoulders. Her eyes were wide, still alive. Lutaya, she whispered, do not keep the rhythm, break it. The masked creature hissed, the cavern trembling. Silence her. The drummers' harrow faces turned. Their hands tightened on sticks. Lutaya's heart thumped, fighting the heavy pulse of the drum strapped to him. He took one breath, deep but sharp, and instead of striking in time, he slammed the drum offbeat. A gagged sound ripped through the cavern. Cracks raced up the stone walls. The keeper stretched, a wind of dust and bone. The fog shredded. Burial clothes fluttered empty, as if the bodies within had turned to smoke. Sarah grabbed Lutaya's arm, dragging him towards a silver of daylight that had appeared at the edge of the cavern. Behind them, the keeper howled, "You cannot leave. The march is endless." Drums rumbled like an approaching storm. The ground pitched. They ran, stumbling, chased by echoes of the beat. At least they burst through a cleft in the hill, rolling down onto the wet grass. Morning sun cut through the mist, burning it away. They sat trembling, staring back at the hillside. Where the entrance had been, there was only rock, smooth and bare. Madu was nowhere. Sarah wept softly. Lutaya felt the drum's ropes gone, yet a faint rhythm lingered in his chest. Not his heartbeat, but something deeper. as though part of him still stood among the shadows. When they returned to the village, elders listened gravely. One old woman spit into the fire and said, "The hill will call again. Once you struck its drum, you always hear the march." And so, on silent nights when the moon hides behind the clouds, Lutaya sometimes wakes up, his hands poised to strike an invisible skin. From far up Namisindwa, a faint boom, boom answers. For days, Lutaya tried to quit the rhythm that still pulsed inside him. But every night, just as he drifted to sleep, a distant drumbeat crept into his room, steady as a second heartbeat. Sometimes he thought he heard Mado's voice hidden inside it, calling his name, muffled as if from underwater. Sarah came to him one evening, pale from lack of sleep. "I saw him," she said. "By the river he stood in the rains, soaking wet, staring at me. When I called, he turned and walked into the mist." They decided to return to Namisindwa despite the elders' warnings. If Madhu was trapped, they could not leave him behind. They climbed in silence, torches uplit, guided only by the moon. Guided only by the moon. The hill was unnaturally still. Even the wind held its breath. At the place where the cave had been, the rock glistened deep, as if hiding a mouth behind a thin skin of stone. Sarah placed her hand against it, and surface trembled. A whisper said through the night, "Strike once, only once, if you wish him back." Lutaya hesitated. He had no drum, yet under his palm the stone felt like stretched heat. He struck it with the heel of his hand. A single boom rolled down the slope. The ground split, revealing a stairway spiraling into darkness or into blackness. They descended. The air grew cold, thick with the scent of wet clay and smoke. The stairs opened into a hall lit by a faint glow from the stones embedded in the walls. All around, huge drums, hundreds suspended by cords of woven vein. Some were cracked, others sleek, as if newly oiled. They swayed through. There was no breath, giving off a low murmur like breathing. At the center, Maduk knelt before a drum larger than a man, his hands bound by shadowy cords. His eyes were open, but vacant, pupils reflecting the dull light. When he spoke, his voice came layered with many others. "The hill keeps what it's owed." The masked keeper emerged from behind the great drum, taller than before, its back mask glimmering wet. "Two returned," it said, voice echoing like a stone dropped in a deep wall. "The march is unbalanced." Sarah stepped forward, shaking but firm. "Take me instead," she said. "Let him go." The keeper's hull gazed fixed on her. "Exchange requires rhythm," it said. "One must play until the last echo fades." It handed Sarah a pair of carved sticks. The great drum curved, waiting. Sarah raised the sticks. She hesitated, only a heartbeat, then struck, not the slow, steady beat of the march, but a wild, gagged rhythm, sharp as thunder over the stone. The hall shook. Drums along the walls answered, each with its own frenetic pulse. Shadows recoiled. Madhu's cords snapped. He grasped as if surfacing from deep water. The keeper staggered. You traced the accordions, it hissed. Chaos unravels the hill. Cracks split the floor, spilling a blinding white mist. Lutaya grabbed Sala and Madu, dragging them towards the stairway as the hall collapsed behind them. They burst onto the hillside just as dawn smeared the sky pink. For a moment, all was quiet, only the whisper of grass. Then Lutaya felt it, faint vibrations beneath his feet, not fading, but moving upward, as though something climbed after them. Sarah turned, clinching Madu. It isn't finished, she whispered. From far below, through cracks in the earth, came a final deep thud. Boom! The three stood frozen on the slope, morning light already washing the sky pale, but below the hill hovered as if something anonymous turned in its sleep. Stones trembled loose, birds shrieked and scattered. Then a hand, a long back-skinned claws, carved like roots, broke through the earth where the stairway had been. Another followed, dragged up a huge shape wrapped in mist. The keeper was climbing out. It was no longer bound to the cavern. Sunlight hit its mask and steamed away, revealing a face not of wood, but of packed soil, shredded with worms. Its mouth yawned wild, releasing the smell of damp graves. The song isn't over, it growled. Finish what you began. The drums hanged deep inside the hill answered, their echoes pulsing through the ground. They ran down the slope, Madu lamping between them. Behind, the keeper gave a single booming strike on the ground, and the sound rolled like thunder. The trees ahead of them shifted, trunks twisting aside to block escape. The hill itself was alive, folding the forest into a maze. Each path ended in drumming shadows or stone walls that had been there before. Lutaya remembered the gagged rhythm Salah had played. Keep the chaos, he shouted over the pounding earth. It hates a broken beat. Sarah snatched a fallen branch and began striking it against rocks and trees. Never keeping a steady time, the air trembled. The path waved, opening just enough for them to slip through. At the far end of the slope stood a huge fig tree, its branches aching like a gate beyond the valley stretched, glimmering with morning dew, but between them and safety rose a low drum of stone, half buried, humming like a living heart. The keeper loomed behind, taller now, a cloud of soil and shadow clinging to its shoulders. Leave the hill, and the beat will follow, it warned. Stay, and the hill will keep you whole. Mado swayed, eyes heavy with exhaustion. I hear it calling, he whispered. I think part of me belongs. Lutaya gripped his arm. No, that call isn't yours. It's the hill staring you beneath. Sarah lifted the branch again, looked at the fig tree, then at the keeper. If rhythm binds it, she murmured, silence might cut the rope. She dropped the branch for a heartbeat. The hill was utterly still. The keeper paused. Worry, even the wind stopped. Then Sarah clapped her hands once, harder, and stood perfectly still. The echo rang and faded into nothing. No drum followed. The keeper roared, a sound like stones grinding to dust. Its body trembled, seams of seams of light opening across its soil flesh. The ground shook violently, but no new beat rose to steady it. No, it howled, voice pattling. With a shoulder, the figure cracked apart, crumbling into heaps of damp earth. Drums all along the hillside sagged and split, licking dark smoke at the wind tore licking dark smoke as the wind tore away. When the dust settled, the morning was clear. Birds returned hesitantly to the trees. The three collapsed against the feng tree, gasping. Yet in quiet, Lutaya felt something faint. Not a drum, not a voice, but an almost imperceptible pulse beneath the soil, like a heartbeat too deep to hear fully. Sarah met his eyes. "We ended that song," she said softly. "But the hill, it's still listening." Madhu shivered, staring at the rubber where the keeper had been. "Then we did better never give it another note." They turned from Namisindwa and walked slowly into the valley, leaving the hill behind. Also they hoped. We will end our first chapter here. In case you are interested in the story, please consider subscribing and giving us a thumbs up. And do not forget to comment. We will be coming back with part 2. I love you guys. Stay blessed. Our next episode, will be loading it anytime soon, as long as you fully watch this and give us your full support. By watching it, you are supporting us. Love you. Stay